Welcome to Rage Against the Mainstream, your full spectrum source for all things music, insight, and opinion. Today's date is October 4th, 2021. My name is Bill. I'm joined here today with Steve.
Hello.
So, yeah, it's nice to have you back, buddy.
Our clothes look very similar to
A couple weeks back.
a couple weeks ago.
Laundry.
Oh, yeah, I did that too.
Yeah, I think it's just coincidence.
Laundry's good.
Yeah, laundry's good.
I never really wondered when people said, hey, didn't you wear that 2 weeks ago? It's like... yeah,
well, I'm always repping my boys in the Phoenix Within.
And I'm always representing my boys, the Philadelphia Flyers. Always.
So, have you encountered anything new or interesting in the past couple weeks?
Yeah, so it's been about close to a month now since the two iconic hip-hop albums of the year were released in Donda and Certified Lover Boy by Drake. So I'm ready to make my stance. I didn't want to speak on Certified Lover Boy because I had mentioned Donda several times coming out, and then CLB kind of hit right after that, and it's become basically it was the talk of the internet for months leading up to these albums. So I'm ready to make my stance. I don't want to have another fear inoculum moment, speaking too soon on something. And it's funny because both of the albums I find like extreme flaw in. I think they're good in some rights, but not nearly as good as these people try to argue for. And it really sucks because that's where we're at in terms of hip hop. What bothers me about it even more is because I constantly talk about this and have brought it up multiple times. And King's Disease 2 by Nas. There are so many other albums that came out that did not get the notoriety that Donda got, that CLB got by Drake. And it sucks because King's Disease 2 by Nas is probably going to go down as my favorite hip-hop album of this year. I honestly, if I had to rate them, I think Drake did a better job. I think Donda was way overhyped to a point where you're trying to look for some creative ingenuity and kind of really fucking fall short of that in the album.
Man, it sounds a lot like another album.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, it just sucks. I hate that this is the one time where the internet really fucking can get under your skin and hyping something up through social media to where it finally comes to fruition. And then you have a level of expectation. It's like when a fucking Netflix show comes out and you got to hear about it from your friends and family for a month and then you put it on.
Yep.
And like, I can't even enjoy it now because now in the back of my head, I'm thinking about the 50 odd people that said it was the best thing they've ever seen. And in my head, like, still doesn't beat The Sopranos. Like, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So yeah, King's Disease 2, as of today, best hip-hop album of 2021.
Going off of what you just said about The Sopranos, another Jerry Bruckheimer series, Lucifer.
Jerry Bruckheimer?
Yeah, Jerry Bruckheimer did Lucifer.
Okay.
I say it in past tense, did Lucifer because it was his final season. Season 6 premiered on Netflix September 10th. And like I thought I was gonna be able to like sit back and like really just like I'll watch it a week at a time, and I'm not gonna rush through it. It is the final season, but I couldn't help myself, so I rushed through the rest of the series and or the rest of that season, and I've been on the Lucifer bandwagon for a long time.
Yeah, you've brought this up many a times.
Yeah, I can tell you now, it's not a Game of Thrones thing. I can tell you from watching it from start to finish, you will enjoy the entire series.
Yeah, Game of Thrones could have been in my top 3 if it wasn't for those last couple seasons.
Yeah, this Lucifer was just great. I feel like I'm like emotionally attached to this show, and now that it's over, it's like, what the fuck am I gonna do now?
I haven't found a new show to get myself extremely dedicated to in quite some time. I don't know if you've ever seen You.
No.
So You's coming out with a new season, and that's the last newer series I think that I've been able to kind of binge when it comes on.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cliche. It's like one of those shows that's just constantly fucking brought up. But Lucifer, we talked about this many times because there was a time where I really started to watch it and then just totally stopped. I did the same thing with Dexter.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get into Dexter. I had heard so much about it. It was already totally done. I was like, cool, I can literally watch it from start to finish if I want to. And I would start that and I got a couple episodes, and I'm just like, ugh. But I also know some shows like eventually do grip you.
Yeah.
And my problem is like if it's a show that I wasn't on my intent looking for,
yeah,
it was also someone's word, like it's hard for me to like get through those first couple episodes to get you.
Actually, it's funny too, if I remember correctly, I think it was in the very beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah,
I'm like, I called you and I'm like, dude, you gotta watch this show.
Keep bringing this up. Yeah. I actually, which sucks because I probably should have invested my time, because I wound up finally going back to American Horror Story 84, I think it was called, the last season that was released before the new one. And I pushed that off for years. Like, I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. It was horrible, dude. It was fucking horrible, man. And I don't know. I think it's because of long-term series. The further back I get in them as seasons are released, then I get to a point like, I might as well just wait for it to be over and then kind of go on into it. That's what I did with Dexter, dead ass. The last couple seasons were coming out and I just refused to get started.
Funny. Yeah, well, the final season of Lucifer, it just brings the whole show full circle, like basically back to the very beginning. And very good show. I feel like it was...
Spoiler alert?
Well, I mean, that's up to interpretation, however you feel that what I just said meant.
Okay.
Because when you watch it, you'll understand. You'll go, oh, okay.
All right.
It's not a spoiler alert.
Okay.
Plus, the season's been out for over a month.
Yeah, it's your fault if you're being spoiled. Fuck
it. Music-wise, however, the band Camino released a new album, coincidentally, on the same day.
Oh.
And I was really dick hard about the band Camino for a long time, because I thought they were going to be something different and they were going to like revitalize like the whole pop rock thing and kind of bring it into a new realm. But let's just say I don't think the pandemic did them too well.
Not happy about it.
No. Well, they released their self-titled album, the band Camino. And I'm not necessarily going to say my wife doesn't have good taste in music, because that's not true. But
you mean the assistant to...
Yeah, the assistant to the assistant regional manager. She loved it. She thought it was great.
Okay.
Then again, she really likes the band Camino. I really did like them. But now, being a media personality and, I'm supposed to be crucial on things like this, I started thinking about it in a new light. And I'm like, well, their last album was really good. Try Hard, that came out in 2019. It was I thought it was great. I thought it was one of the best albums to come out in 2019. And this new one, they took a whole new approach, and it's like full blown pop. It's like some shit you'd hear on like 104.5. It's just like, what did you do? It seemed like they were going in a direction to be like the premier like rock band, like something like Foo Fighters type level band. And now they're like that. Literally, they're like a 21 Pilots ripoff now.
Oh,
yeah. It was a devastating blow.
It's like the Black Keys effect.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you get too big to your own good, and then you start to conform a little bit.
Well, if you still like the band Camino, you can catch them currently on tour with Dan and Shay, if that's any constellation.
Okay. Unbelievable.
On this day in music history.
On this day, October 4th, 1969, Creedence Clearwater Revival's LP Green River hits #1. Fucking great album.
Yup.
That is probably my favorite Creedence album. Front to back. Because Creedence, we talk about this, like where compilation bands kind of come into the mix. Mm-hmm. Creedence for me was like almost there because they have so many hits everywhere else.
Yeah.
But this album is like, dude, it's like front to back. This is a very, very good album.
I mean, I still really, really like Chronicles.
Of course. That's what I'm saying. Like that to me, that is the equivalent CD that you would see like with Back in Black being in someone's like CD rack that like grew up in the 70s. Like that's
I'm pretty sure my grandmother had Chronicles.
Yeah, you go to there's 2 albums that you're guaranteed to see at every fucking secondhand CD store, and it's Chronicles and Green by REM.
Oh yeah.
Guaranteed. You search the REM section, there'll be 16 copies of Green.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
Chronicles somewhere.
Moving along here, 1970, Janis Joplin is found dead at the Landmark Hotel in Los Angeles after a heroin overdose. She was just 27.
27. Yep.
Devastating blow.
Very sad. Yeah, she was, I mean, that era just of music was sad for the artists and their circumstances, but Janis I kind of put in that same realm as like Amy Winehouse for her time, where like potential of what could have been. I mean, all those artists when they die that early, but still, Janis was like, I mean, so many people still relate back if they're like relating a female singer. She sounds like Janis. Like Janis was like that iconic, like very unique voice for her time. Very unique. 1986, the popular newsman Dan Rather.
Technical difficulties.
Yep. Dan Rather is attacked by a man who hits him from behind and repeats the phrase Kenneth. What is the frequency? Prompting REM to write their song, What's the Frequency, Kenneth?
Well, literally my favorite REM song.
Really?
Yeah.
It is a good song.
Like, it's literally, like, I'm not a giant REM fan, but, like, I heard that song for the first time. I was like, okay, maybe I'll give it a try.
Song. Yeah, I'm a pretty big REM fan. This is a very good song, though. If you're really having an issue, too, watch REM's Unplugged. Yeah? It's fucking great.
I'm going to have to check that out.
It's fucking great.
I don't know. I like how like the lyrics of the song are basically like nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's just
But that's the great thing about REM, that if you can appreciate that, most of their albums are like that in some of their songs, where they're an album band to me. They're an absolute album band, and there's a couple that I'll throw your way someday, but trust me, if you can dig that, there's a lot more.
Like what is it? The line in the song is like smile, dog, cartoon, tooth for a tooth. Yeah. It's just like, what?
Yeah. It's great.
1995, Alan Jackson wins the prestigious Entertainer of the Year award at the annual Country Music Association's award ceremony. Alan Jackson is one of them, like, undeniable 90s country artists like Garth Brooks and Tim McGraw, except Alan Jackson, I feel like, had a little bit more of the, like the old country western type vibe to his music and to his, just to his being. I think in the grand scheme of like the big four of the country artists around that time, Alan Jackson probably has to be my favorite.
Really?
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. Well, that's tough though, because Garth Brooks, I really love Garth Brooks. Me and Garth go way back. Nah, but it's definitely a toss-up between Alan Jackson and Garth Brooks for me.
I don't have much to weigh in on this. I was never into the 90s country wave. I missed that totally. Totally missed it. It's probably my issue, too, with even trying to digest country, because there was no exposure for me to that growing up.
Well, that's the thing, too, because if you were to get exposed to it now, there's just bullshit and garbage.
I was going to say, every person I know that has, like, at least a strong appreciation for country got exposed to it as a kid. Mm-hmm. Like, that doesn't seem to be a genre that most people, like, hit 25, hear a song for the first time, and then boom. Well, that's the thing. That's how it is now, because it's all fucking infused with pop music, and there's just like a super fine line and like just a little bit of a twang. That's why when I say that, I can't operate on those standards with certain music. I mean, even genres of music I listen to today, more than likely at some point I was already stumbling upon as like a teenager or like preteen.
Yeah.
Now it's just like evolving at this point. But country is such a like very narrow genre where like everything I've heard in modern time is like a total turnoff to even want to get into it. I think that was my issue. I really missed out on the wave of like that true country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll throw some albums your way.
Maybe. Fair enough. Yeah. Dude,
I'll trade you.
I'm open. 1996, That Thing You Do, a musical film starring the writer-director Tom Hanks, who plays the manager of a fictional 60s band, The Wonders, is released to U.S. cinemas. The title track to the film was written by Adam Schlesinger, bass player for Fountains of Wayne.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
I love this movie. Such a good movie.
It is a good movie.
And that song is really catchy.
It is.
I just... Like I just keep like going back to like that one scene, like in the when Guy joins the band, like they play the talent show, And like the front man's like all pissed because he fucking starts playing it super fucking fast. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we're on to something.
Yeah.
Then the whole time, all he's trying to do is just like fucking downplay what the band's doing. He's like, yeah, but I have these really good songs.
What's even more interesting is 96. This is a very underrated Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think at the time it came out, I think it got swallowed in the box
That's
office.
what I'm saying. If you think about like what he did around that time specifically, I mean, I don't know. This is like not a movie that gets talked about quite a lot.
No.
Even remotely. I mean, compared to what he did in the 90s.
Literally, if you have never seen this movie, do yourself the favor and check it out. It's definitely an underrated Tom Hanks movie.
Have you seen this movie?
Have
Hit us up on our social media.
What do you think?
Is this an underrated? No.
Move forward here to 1999. Jimi Hendrix's half-sister Janie announces her plans to exhume the body of her famous half-brother and move it to a mausoleum where curious onlookers can view it for a price. The public outcry forces her to shelve the idea. What a piece of shit.
Yeah, I don't really see any way to justify this other than she got some fucking crazy hospital bill and was like, well, I mean, there's plan B.
Yeah.
Dig up my fucking half-brother and
We'll dig up my brother.
stick his cadaver in a makeshift museum. That's fucking crazy.
Well, I can only hope, when I die, I'm going to leave you as executor of my will so you can make sure that I get put in a mausoleum so people can see me.
I want to be stuffed.
You want to be stuffed?
Yeah, I have a plan that if I can find a taxidermist who's willing to go against ethical code, he'll stuff my body. I'll be in a tuxedo, and hopefully I'll be like balding by then so I can look like a creepy butler. And I want to get myself passed around by my nephews and niece to put me out as a Halloween decoration. I want my arm to be in a specific fashion to hold a plate.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'll be a little Halloween decoration out there. And, it'll be like, my niece Stephanie will have it 1 October in, like, 2060. And she'll be telling my nephew, it's your turn to take Uncle Steve. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
it's your year, like, they got to put me out every year. And it'll be a little bond where my fucking stuffed corpse is just on their porch holding candy.
Well, if that's what your goal is and your ultimate plan,
Yep.
if you so happen to pass before me, I'll try to make sure that
Please
this
don't.
happens.
Yeah, make sure I'm stuffed. All right? You heard it here first, folks.
What do you think? What do you think about ethical code?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Speaking of ethical codes.
Yeah, 2005, Nickelback released their 5th album, All the Right Reasons, with the hits Photograph, Far Away, and Rockstar. Goes to #1 in their native country of Canada and also in the U.S., where it sells over 10 million. Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's diamond.
What's, see, this is, again, there's never been a point in my life where I wanted to listen to Nickelback.
Yeah.
But I will say that there have been many points in my life where Nickelback was on, and it wasn't like some people like treat it like they're getting triggered, like a high pitched noise and like get it off the right. No, like it doesn't bother me like that. But for 2005, and this goes even to like just most recently with Iron Maiden's new album, their highest charting album ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of the way networks are today and how you can access music.
Yeah.
Which sucks because, you talk about like singles. Like, is this really a single because of the way it charted as opposed to like, no, like it's a single in our mind because it's just that's how it was released and that's what it was intended for and that's how good it is. Like, this is a single by the band. Like, it's a very misconstrued perception. But in reality, a single is how it charts.
Yeah.
In this case, in 2005, to chart like that, right before the turn of like
MP3s and streaming.
Yeah, I mean, hate all you want. I mean, as much as I'll hate as well, but you can't deny that level of ability. Call it marketing, call it average at best talent, whatever. 10 million copies. I mean, in that era.
Yeah. And even crazier, I believe at this point in time in 2005, for reference, Van Halen 1 had only sold 10 million copies.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's even different, though. And actually, that's weirder because back then, that's really all you had your access to.
Yeah.
Was purchase.
I'll fact check this.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be interesting to know. Stay tuned for that answer.
So why don't you wrap us up here in 2008 while I look this up?
I would like to. Can't see it, though. Technical difficulties. 2008, Darius Rucker, known as the frontman for 90s pop band Hootie and the Blowfish, hits #1 on the country chart with his first country single, Don't Think I Don't Think About It. Wow. Don't Think About It. Okay. Tongue twister.
Don't think I don't think about it.
Yeah, making him the first African-American singer to top the tally since 1985 when Ray Charles hit the top with Seven Spanish Angels, a duet with Willie Nelson. So, fun fact. Only Want to Be With You by Hootie and the Blowfish was arguably my mom's favorite song of all time. That song was played on so many fucking occasions to me as a kid. Between that and Thriller by Michael Jackson are like almost the embodiment of like my early childhood. And it's hilarious because growing up with Hootie and the Blowfish and Michael Jackson, who would have thought that at some point I'd be, stoked to review Torn Arteries by Carcass. It's just, that's what I love about music. You never really know the transition of tides and what's going to...
wherever it takes you.
It's wherever it takes you.
It's wherever it takes me, man.
Nope.
Van Halen 1.
Back to that fact check.
Yeah, back to the fact check. Van Halen 1 in 1996 had finally reached 10 million copies.
Oh, okay, so...
But we're also talking like 20 years.
Okay.
20 years to reach something that Nickelback did in a fucking year.
It only took him a year to hit that mark? It was released in 2005.
Yeah, it goes to #1.
It goes to #1, but it sells over 10 million copies. How long did it take to reach that point?
Let me fact check that one.
Yeah, that's because it doesn't say, and it sells over 10 million copies the day it hits the fucking chart. Like
immediately, day one, 10 million copies sold first day.
Which is that? See, again, that goes back to like the streaming setup where
to March 2017.
Yeah, so it took 12 years.
Yeah, 12 years. So it was still shot. I mean,
yeah. But to put it in
the perspective of Van Halen
to
versus
Nickelback,
exactly
the topic of discussion.
Like they did it in a shorter amount of time.
What's even more amazing is like there's just so much absolute hatred towards Nickelback. So now my question is, how many of those people were part of the purchasing that have outwardly spoken against, like that have that like closeted Nickelback love? You know what I mean?
Get at us on our social media accounts. Is that you?
Because seriously, I mean, you're hitting that type of chart.
There's 10 million fucking people out there that bought that album.
That I'm guaranteeing the percentage of them that be like, yeah, fuck Nickelback. But they're at home like, the bottom of everybody. Come like, they're out there.
Dude, that's why I said it since day one of this show.
Are you a closeted Nickelback fan?
I'm not closeted at all.
I know you've outwardly spoken out and come out to the Nickelback community. But going back to this Darius Rucker thing.
Hootie.
Oh
my God. You ever see that skit in Key and Peele? Hootie. I'm not Hootie. My name is Darius Ruckers.
But this makes me think, right? So we kind of touched on this a little bit in a previous episode a while back, and I forget exactly how we had discussed the topic. But Darius Rucker, like the transformation, we almost did like a when keeping it real goes wrong. We almost did when artists try to completely change their direction, but kind of like maintain. In this case, I mean, the 180 concept, right?
Yeah.
Like the ability to just shift your entire everything basically, to change your whole style, your sound, your genre, and keep a credibility and be able to be successful in doing it.
Yes.
I thought we could just kind of go down maybe some of ours that we noticed that are able to create that 180. And we don't even have to say that they maintained a level of success, but just able to make that transition and kind of just continue to perpetuate music.
Well, for starters, my first one here is the Beastie Boys.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Started as a punk band.
Yep.
Decided one day, fuck it.
I don't want to talk about them too much because we'll talk about the Beastie Boys, but just in that context, the Goo Goo Dolls also strike out to me, which is fucking hilarious. Did you ever hear the Goo Goo Dolls' first album?
No.
Dude, it's like punk.
Well, that's the same thing as Sugar Ray.
I think that's hilarious because you would never fucking know.
No.
It's so weird.
Yeah, Sugar Ray was on my list for that.
Okay. So Beastie Boys, stick with them for a moment.
I mean, obviously this was definitely the right choice for them.
100%.
100% the right choice.
So fucking weird because they were almost like satirical about it completely.
Yeah.
And it became so accepted and it's like badass for a point of time.
Well, it's funny because like I know like a while back I suggested my one suggestion was Anthrax's I Am the Man.
Yes.
And you think about the way that rap was in that song, the way that song was structured, the way the vocals were, it's the exact same way that the Beastie Boys do their shit.
100%.
Like, you know, you have like the guy doing like just like a normal ass like fucking voice, then trying to think. Because of course, like any other time, I'd fucking be able to pull a Beastie Boys quote out of my ass, but I can't think of one right now.
I know.
Like, you rock around the clock, like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And like that's a style. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was a style that they adopted and they made their own completely.
Yeah.
And you know, there was kind of like a return to form.
Public Enemy had that as well.
Yeah.
Like Flavor Flav was like really big. Like it was like almost the hype man vibe.
Yeah.
But it was funny because Beastie Boys added a level of rock music to it in a sense that you would see become prominent in a lot of fucking mashups later on.
Yeah, they use it Licensed to Ill.
Yeah, open up doorways for so many crossovers, like type, you know, genre choices and like being able to mash. I mean, the Jay-Z and Linkin Park situation. Yep. But yeah, I think the Beastie Boys, it's funny because I forget what I was watching and that was brought up in that, you know, even when they were being interviewed, like they had no clue like what they were doing in terms of like how big this was going to get. Cause and I think some artists, like obviously I can get behind them feeling that way.
Yeah.
Like nobody really goes into certain things like we're going to make $1 billion doing this. You know, some people I'm sure do. Some people really have a high hope that their hit songs that they play over and over on their cassette is going to be a big fucking hit one day.
Yeah.
And they're just going to keep writing singles, apparently. Like, people do that, apparently.
Yeah.
Out there in the world. But the Beastie Boys, it was like a humble experience to know that not only did they not know, and they were also coming into it with more of a joking mentality, that how fucking easy it caught on.
Yeah.
Like, talk about an opportunity catching with the time, like immediately.
Yeah, they're literally the epitome of the right place, the right
literally,
time.
If the Beastie Boys tried to get established today,
oh no,
it'd be written off, like completely.
It would be a joke,
100%.
But like, it's funny though because they kind of did like a return to form there with Sabotage.
Yes,
you know, it was kind of like, okay, so the rumors were true.
Yeah.
Like these guys can play their instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Beastie Boys and Sugar Ray, both punk acts. I mean, Sugar Ray obviously went into a totally different direction.
Yeah.
Mark McGrath.
Bloodbath McGrath from Wild Wild West. Bloodbath McGrath.
Bloodbath McGrath.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Right? Okay. That makes it even funnier.
One that always annoyed me.
Yeah.
Was Maroon 5. Like, I remember when Songs About Jane came out.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing it and like knowing like as a kid, like this is like a good band. Like they were a legitimately good alternative rock band or adult contemporary fucking band.
Yeah.
And there's like a level of talent within that group. And as a whole, they were just incredible. And Adam Levine had he had very good fucking vocal abilities. They were just an extremely good band. And for some reason or another, they fucking decided on the fact that Adam Levine was going to be this fucking front guy.
It was weird because there was a point in time when I remember Maroon 5 like was a very band atmosphere. Yeah. And it was very like, I mean, I wouldn't say like the Killers, but it was kind of like heading that direction, just more pop, more acceptable, like, you know, overall, because of like the music videos and the perception and persona they had. But it was funny because then, like, out of nowhere, you're still seeing Maroon 5, but I couldn't tell you another fucking dude's name in that band.
Exactly. I only know James Valentine's the guitar player.
Yeah, and even that, like, that name doesn't even fucking sound like a household amenity. Like, but Adam Levine, it just, I don't know what. I guess it makes sense because of like that was the particular culture of music at that point. Was like honing in on a personality as opposed to a level of talent, especially in that level of music. Yeah. You know, it wasn't the Black Keys getting started. It wasn't the Lumineers in modern time where you're driven by a band. Mumford & Sons either. Like, never at any point is a front man standing out to be what he was, like performing at Super Bowls and shit.
By himself.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like, so it's just crazy to me because the level of talent within that group was so fucking huge. Yeah. And I mean, who knows? Maybe they're all recluses and like they just didn't like the spotlight or whatever. Yeah. Like, I mean, anything's possible, but it just always annoyed me because I felt like as a band and as a group, they left so much on the table. Yeah. And to go in a direction of pop, it was just a waste of fucking talent, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree because, again, that era of music was a very weird time. Like, there was no driving genre of music. No. I mean,
like, you think of Matchbox 20.
Yeah, early hip hop was, I would say, be dominating in the early 2000s. Yeah. Like, I would say that would be the most dominating force. But I mean, metal was fucked up. You know, rock and roll was fucked up. And then you had the opportunity for these pop acts to come out, and I mean, even like Fall Out Boy kind of did the same exact shit. Yeah. Where they went into a very
back of the disco.
Yeah. Like they went into a very electronic using synthesizer. Like they went way away from like what their fan base was establishing.
Yeah. Like you listen to Grand Theft Autumn versus, you know, and then like From Under the Cork Tree.
Exactly.
And then you go on. They're like an entirely different band now. They're not even close to the same Fall Out Boy.
And it's very weird, but I also understand because this is where we get in the debate with a certain band about a certain album, which is their 5th full-length release that just came out with an anniversary edition, and I'm not going to go any further to discuss this.
Yeah, we're not going to say
Sometimes there's just a level of involvement, I think, that happens with these artists where they feel a need to adjust. But this is, again, why I get scared is the idea that is it like a personal thing, or like this is where you want to go? Is this your creativity evolution that you're taking advantage of? This is the direction you were planning on going, or is it because this is what's popular right now? Maybe we should switch it up.
Well, I feel like bringing in that particular album is unfair to the conversation.
I know, I'm just saying
because of they were still in the same wheelhouse, and they were technically still in like the same genre. Yeah, but it was still like you knew that was them. It's not like you had, you know, the one guy taking the front and like changing it, you know, singer-songwriter style.
But it's still like the idea with, let's say we're talking Darius Rucker, you know, changing a genre choice. You want to say wheelhouse, that's cool. Total wheelhouse. Yeah. But if you put, you know, track 1 against track 1 off of the red and white colored album versus this colored album, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, I know what you mean.
But I mean, in certain cases, because one that we'll talk about that was the most shocking, I think, in recent time for me was Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, man. The Rap Devil?
I didn't even know that this happened. And we've mentioned him before on this show with the situation that's going on with him. First of all, I mean, the man's doing fine for himself. Yeah. That's no secret. I don't know what's going on with Travis Barker out there. I hope you're doing all right, dude. I don't know. I just seeing you out there in the limelight with him constantly, but just, you know, I don't know if music's still going good, but
well, apparently he's madly in love with Kourtney Kardashian. He just looks
old. And it's like sad because that guy was like, you know, I loved Blink growing up, and he just looks old out there.
Well, he was like that guy that was never supposed to get old.
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, he was like that guy that was supposed to be young forever.
I know. It's just kind of awkward seeing like the four of them all together. And like Machine Gun Kelly looks like the 22-year-old kid hanging out like the 47-year. Like, it just looks weird out there. Either way.
Hanging out with his uncle because his uncle's a drummer.
Exactly. Yeah. But his uncle's cool as fuck. So, like, actually cooler than you. So, yeah, we accept it. But anyway, the Machine Gun Kelly thing's funny to me because, and we talked about this before, because I listened to some of the songs, and Halsey, the one song he does with her particularly, I kind of got into it for a period of time because I like Halsey. I do like Halsey. And either way, that shit, like, I don't know how you do that. I just, like, you went from a very respectable artist in hip hop and rap. You were a good lyricist. You made some very good songs. You were very well known. And with no rhyme or reason other than one possible factor. We're narrowing this down on one possible factor. Through a lot of controversy and heat and battling, all of a sudden he said, "Fuck, I'm going to do pop punk." And bro, like, pop punk to me is a genre of music where you can be very accepted as long as you have loyalty to the genre.
Oh, yeah.
Because every pop punk fan I know, it's hilarious because they're like just as tough as like hardcore street punks that listen to like GBH or the Adolescents, but they're wearing really colorful shit and they go to Warped Tour. But they're just as, ambitious about their genre. Like,
yep.
Every pop punk kid I met loves their fucking genre. And it's just such a weird genre to break into, especially when you've already had a very established career as a hip hop artist. But again, there's that one plausible factor of why this happened.
Yeah, when you're, what was the line? When your heroes become your rivals or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the line?
Something along those lines. Either way.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the actual lyric was.
Doesn't matter right now.
When your fans become your haters.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least that's what the other guy said.
Yeah. Okay.
Why are we saying the other guy? Why don't we just say who it is?
Yeah.
Eminem.
Yeah. Ruined the man's career.
Literally, I tried to put it into perspective, like, what would it take for someone to do something to me for me to just completely give this up? Like, it would have to be a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
I think in terms of hip hop, it's getting like chewed out by an aging Eminem. Which means this is the thing about it. This, in sports terms, would be the equivalent of
Troy Aikman coming in.
Troy Aikman going out there for the Dallas Cowboys and winning them a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And against like the Kansas City Chiefs of all teams. You know what I mean? Like, that is beyond embarrassing because in his prime, you could accept it.
Yeah.
In his prime, you could accept something of that nature because of the talent and the ability.
Yeah.
But to go out there and just by a namesake still get beat in your craft.
Or, going out in the field and getting your shit pushed in by Emmitt Smith.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. You know what I mean? It'd be like Jake Paul going out there today and fighting Muhammad Ali's corpse and losing.
Yeah.
Because again, Eminem to me in his recent years is not nearly as talented as he's been. No. Even the feature that he does on Nas's album that I've stressed many and many times, his lyrical content is his style, but it feels a little forced. It feels like he's trying to. It doesn't have the same flow. It doesn't have the same energy. It doesn't have the same like. This was something very creative I came up with. This was like, no, how many words can I fit into a 30-segment block and make them all rhyme and sound, like weave like spaghetti noodles, basically. But again, the whole thing developed a lot of attention for MGK, which was crazy because he didn't need it.
No.
He was already good. I was an MGK fan. I really liked what he did with Waka Flocka Flame and the Call Me Steve-O, like that. He had so many songs early on in those like 2012-ish time where he was already like well established. Like, why did you do this?
Yeah.
What did you think was going to happen?
I don't know.
And what's best about it is through the whole comment section of everything that I had to read about this situation. Of course, like, I had to read. And you would get the same people saying the same things about Eminem and how great he is and blah, blah, blah. And then he's old. And you could tell which era was arguing against each other. But then as soon as it ended, Eminem just kept doing his thing. And MGK disappeared. And next thing you know, a pop punk album surfaces.
Yeah, next thing you know, he's playing a pink Telecaster.
What the fuck happened? Like, are we ever going to get a definitive answer on you know, why the career change? Why the genre choice? And I don't want to hear like, oh, I was an SLC punk too. Like, I've always been a punk fan because, nah, like, okay, cool, but bro, like, you don't just say, guess what? I'm really enjoying hip hop for this many years, making money off of it, and actually being good at it. So it doesn't seem like you're just some like Justin Bieber puppet up there, you know, being a face of a popular culture of fans. You were good. So you liked it to some point.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you want Machine Gun Kelly on our show? Do you want Steve to ask this fateful question?
I want answers. I want them.
If anybody listening to the show has any kind of connection with Machine Gun Kelly,
give us your fan theories.
Yeah.
Why did Machine Gun Kelly go from respectable hip hop to a pink Telecaster and pop punk? I need answers. That's not what your machine. No, I'm just no.
One of the last one, or actually the last one I got written down here is the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have the early work of the Beach Boys, very surf rock oriented. You know, basically like the equivalent of like a punk band, I guess, for around that time. Like very simple music and very simple message to get across. Then all of a sudden you get Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
And it's just an entirely different fucking band.
Yeah.
Like entirely different. I mean, it all has to do with the genius of Brian Wilson.
Of course.
Which he totally is. But to go from, you know, I don't know, to go from Surfing USA to Good Vibrations, like, it's not even the same band.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the funny thing, too. Like, if the vocals in the Beach Boys weren't so iconic, right?
You probably wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it was the same band. Like, you think about it, then, like, all right, even worse. Think about fucking, I don't know. Think about fucking 409 versus Kokomo. You know, when the Beach Boys had a young John Stamos on their percussions.
So great. So good.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like that song a lot. But.
No, you like that song because of when you heard it. There's no way you're just like jamming out to that just on the regular. There's a difference between like liking a song because it's that good, place for it. Or it's just like, wow, this is like, I remember this song as a kid.
If I'm looking to just be in a car and like know the words to songs.
Like if it comes on the radio, I'm not gonna like, I might change it, but you gotta have something better than that. There's not like anything will work at this point.
Yeah.
Like that's my radio.
You'll do the scan through, and if you don't find nothing, you'll go back.
That's the best way I can relate.
And then you'll be singing that. Aruba, Jamaica.
Come over. Yeah, stop it. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Yeah, but that's a very, very good point with that band, because that is something that unless the vocals were not as iconic as they were, no fucking clue.
Yeah, you'd have no idea that was the Beach Boys. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, that also goes back to like we were talking about like in season 1, like the evolution or de-evolution of an artist. But literally, you would never know it was the same band.
Yeah.
Ever. Well, I mean, technically it wasn't the same band. It was just the same vocalist. And then they just went out and played the shit while Brian Wilson stayed home and just wrote more genius shit. But yeah, so that's kind of all I got from my list. You got any more?
No, I think we can settle on that.
What do you think? Is there artists that we completely missed out on? I mean, there's got to be some.
I mean, you got the Moving Sidewalks, you know, was the early ZZ Top formation.
Oh, yeah.
Bon Scott was in some stuff early on before he got into AC/DC. And I mean, again, I think it's harder to rationalize the difference in like an evolving artist between that like 180 differential.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't know many artists that completely do a flip. Like when we talk about like Darius Rucker and like MGK and guys that like you wouldn't know that this is the same person.
Exactly.
If time goes on long enough and the only thing last remaining is, let's say, MGK's punk album, and that's the only thing for some reason because there's another fire at some studio and everything burns up. these people could be, oh, this guy used to be a hip hop artist. Like, meh.
Yeah.
You know, vice versa. Like, you find this. I mean, I'm not even kidding you when you told me that, man, because again, MGK is not on like my top 50 hip hop artists or anything like that, but I liked him.
Yeah.
He was good shit. When you told me that, I thought it was a joke, kind of wrote it off for a bit, and then I YouTubed that shit, and I saw their full-on fucking video, and then Travis Barker behind it. I'm like, what is going on here? What the fuck happened?
The GOAT came out, man.
I seriously felt like in Step Brothers when they get told they have to go to therapy and move out of the house, and he's like, I got a belly full of white dog shit. You like this shit on me? Like that's there. Yeah, I felt. I saw that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, sad.
Just wild.
Sad. Kudos to Darius Rucker though.
Yeah, you know, it was kind of funny though with his whole thing because he was like a fucking superstar in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then now he's like a prominent country artist. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure at this point he's had more singles, more number ones as a country artist than he did with Hootie and the Blowfish.
Yeah.
Good old Hootie.
Good old Hootie.
Dude, I fucking love that Key and Peele thing though. So you're telling me you're not Hootie? Literally after we're done recording, I'm going to watch that.
It's so good.
So what do you think? Is MGK better off as a pop punk artist? Do you feel like Eminem was a little too harsh on him? Do you prefer the Beastie Boys, pre-licensed to ill? Or do you think, you know, Maroon 5 made the right choice with making Adam Levine the face and basically, you know, putting everyone else in the shadows and behind him? Get at us on our social media accounts. Facebook.com/RATM Podcast, Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast, YouTube, search Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast, and if all else fails, RATM Podcast at gmail.com. Let's get into our personal suggestions for this week. I'll start off.
All right.
Dicking around on Spotify, and I believe it was like 90s Drive playlist or whatever.
It's a good setup.
Yeah, just like something that's just playing. I came across this song called Sister by the band called the Nixons off their 1995 album Foma. It's funny because like what caught my attention initially was the singer or the vocalist sounded like Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20.
Okay.
And I'm like, this really sounds like a fucking Matchbox 20 song. And it's just funny because this came out in the early 90s. Like this was like a predecessor to Matchbox 20. I mean, obviously there's no one in the band that's the same, but it was just kind of funny that like I heard this song and it's almost like Matchbox 20 like completely ripped these fucking guys off.
That's like I'm telling you, man. That's an episode in itself, man. How many B-list didn't make it artists, but good enough to have albums available on these networks?
Yeah, dude, I never heard of the Nixons before.
To this day, I will find it. But Carcass ripped off Decap Attack. I'm gonna find out the truth here. All right, I feel the same way about some of our beloved artists from the '90s. Totally torn to shreds in modern time. Damn shame. So I'm gonna, because it's October. I tried to do this last year, but we didn't get as many episodes in, and I just looked. I only was able to get 2 Halloween-themey albums or songs on there. But I'm going to start off and try to continue this for the month. The first album I'm going to recommend is called Saturnalia of the Accursed. It's basically a compilation album by Argyle Goolsby.
Okay.
Argyle Goolsby was the bassist and then later on solo artist from the band Blitzkid, as well as performing with Dr. Chud and Dr. Chud's X-Ward, but very good for the horror punk genre. The song I'm going to recommend is called The Being.
Nice. Now, is this the same Argyle that was driving around John McClane in Die Hard?
Maybe.
With the big anteater or teddy bear in the backseat of the limo?
Maybe.
How do you feel about Die Hard?
Hit us up on our...
Yeah. Hit us up on our social media accounts. Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast, Facebook.com/RATM Podcast. YouTube search Rage Against Mainstream Podcast and retmpodcast@gmail.com. But until then, this is another episode of Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast for the books. As always, I'm Bill.
Steve.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you for listening.